very briefly, in the time allocated, I'm going to try and run through a little bit of the background to this incredible elders meeting held at Borama in 1993. Possibly one of the most overlooked events in modern African history, and of great significance not just to the Somali nation, the Somali people, but I think of wider significance to the Horn of Africa and the rest of Africa as well. Now, the basis for the origins of the Somali meeting at Borama, the elders meeting at Borama, comes essentially from the mode of life that Somalis have employed for centuries, probably thousands of years. And that is very much based around the keeping and management of livestock. And paramount to that way of life has been the camel. And the society that has evolved to look after those animals, to survive in this fairly harsh environment, has also given rise to a code of morality and a code of conduct that is to this day riven right through Somali society. And it's what I would term pastoral democracy. And in a way you can call it democracy on the point of anarchy. It is so democratic that it barely hangs together. And I think many academics have attempted to try and analyse how this whole system works, and probably failed. But Somalis don't like to leave a grieving party, because if you have somebody with a grievance, sooner or later that grievance will manifest itself in the form of a disruption or a challenge or something.
In 1993, democracy was more of a dream than a reality. After more than a decade of peaceful domestic politics, Somalilanders today are preparing to hold the 6th round of elections to choose their representatives at the presidential, parliamentary and local levels. All of the recent elections were monitored by international observers and were found to be free and fair. Somaliland continues to put its faith in the localized traditional conflict resolution mechanisms that have kept our country peaceful for so long. Our government continues to engage with local leaders in those areas and other stakeholders to address the root causes of the issue. For example, Saleban Hagla Tosi, who is a former leader of a group called SSC that have been involved in a military movement in those areas, have recently joined our government, as well as other leaders of that movement. To conclude, Somaliland has come a long way in the last 20 years, which have passed since the Borama conference. We have made considerable progress in the areas of state building and democratization. We have engaged with the international community, collaborating in efforts to defeat terrorism and jihadism and piracy. We took the initiative to embark on a dialogue with Somalia, which offers a means whereby we can discuss our views on Somaliland's political status. We will continue our efforts to achieve international recognition. We believe that the international community will come to realize that recognizing our country will be an essential means of stabilizing the Horn of Africa.
In the absence of strong government, in the early 90s, everybody was civil society in Somaliland. But at the same time, there was a political process and political leadership going on. Just like Hamish was talking about the elders. Are the traditional elders part of the civil society, or are they political leaders? It's a question. They can perform both. But first of all, that's one area of civil society. What rebuilt Somaliland particularly is the civil society. There was no government. The government was built by the civil society. So in 1991, 92, 93, it was the civil society organizations who were leading the government, and the government was afraid of them. The government was just a facade there, Ministry of this, Ministry of that, but it was the NGOs. And of course, with the help of the international donors. International donors, of course, preferred to fund civil society organizations more than government, which is not recognized. It was weak at that time. Another area, women. Women have been actually keeping, most of the civil society in Somaliland was kept together by the women. Even during the, when people escaped to Ethiopia during the war. From there on, they took the responsibility of keeping families together. They were a crucial part in the peace building, reconstruction, But our system again, so strong against women's participation that we haven't yet succeeded in achieving any credible representation and also their voice. They have their voice in a way, but to be seen that they are exercising their voice is actually to see them in the debates and in the parliament and the local council.
The Minister of Planning has said all. There hasn't been any sustainable development taken place in Somaliland, as far as I'm concerned, up to this time. It has been, what has been going on in Somaliland has been mostly what I call emergency funds and aid, or something similar or close to that. Most aid goes in Hargeisa. And what I would suggest people is to really get out of Hargeisa and find out how people live outside of Hargeisa and in the rural area. For example, water. Water development has never taken place in Somaliland, ever. There are few boreholes here and there. There are few barkas, which is small little cement reservoirs. And you know the livelihood of Somaliland depends on water. There are 6 dams which were built by the World Bank in 1970s, 74, 75, which were built to alleviate drought, which a terrible drought happened and thousands of livestock died and people were in famine situations. These 6 dams have been decimated by the war, have been never rehabilitated after the war, and after 20-some years, it's the foundation which are doing 2, finishing now 2, and hopefully doing the other 4 year after year.